Hot Mike with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mike.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something.
Hot Mike. Hot Mike. On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo. Dom Izzo.
Good Wednesday morning. The calm before the storm edition of Hot Mike on WDAY Extra at InForum.com. We are waiting, wondering, all that kind of good stuff here between now and what could potentially happen here between now and tomorrow. We are officially in a blizzard warning. Somebody's got to learn how to spell, by the way. We're missing an R in February. It's all right. Welcome, everybody, to Hot Mike here on a Wednesday morning. I am Dom Izzo, host of said show. Welcome to our program, which we are basketball heavy today for numerous reasons, because we're in the heart of tournament season. Not ignoring what's going on, of course, with state hockey beginning today in Minnesota. The Class A tournament officially drops the puck in a couple hours. And tomorrow, the North Dakota State hockey tournament will begin on these airwaves right here on WDAY Extra. We will drop the puck with the first of 4 quarterfinals at noon tomorrow. And as we started our show yesterday with plenty of weather chat, we will do it again today just to give everybody an update on where we're at with things and heading into today and tomorrow on where things stand on the weather side. So here's what we can tell you. We have a nice graphic we made as well to make it easier for everybody. So for the girls' region tournaments, 6 of them are on schedule. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 are all completed up to the point where they could be. They have their region finals set. Here's what we can tell you, though, on the other side of things where we're at. Region 3, remember, only played 2 games on Monday. They played 2 games yesterday afternoon, so they finished the quarterfinal round. Now they are into the semifinals. They were going to play them today. They have elected to postpone that, knowing those games are in Jamestown, and you've got schools coming from all over. Region 3 is such a spread-out area that they have elected to not play today, and they will play instead tomorrow. Those games will happen tomorrow night at the Jamestown Civic Center. So the 4 teams left playing there: Kidder County against Linton HMB, Edgeley, Cullen, Montpelier, and Carrington. Those games are tomorrow, with the championship now being played Friday. Here in our own backyard in Region 1, they played 3 games, you'll remember, on Monday. They had to play a quarterfinal last night, which they did. That was between Kindred and Tri-State. They played that game last night. And then they played the first semifinal between Central Cass and Sargent County. Central Cass won that game. So today at 11:30 this morning at the Shack, so if you want to spend your lunch hour up at the Shack, I would highly advise it, actually. It's a heck of a basketball game. The reigning state champions from Kindred facing off against Northern Cass. Now, Northern Cass has had a heck of a year. And you'll remember they played Kindred in the region championship last year. They knocked off Central Cass, did the Jaguars, to get there. And they would love nothing better to beat their rivals from Kindred. Haley Crockett's the real deal. We did a story on her on Sports Sunday on Sunday night. This team is pretty good. But that, if you want to take it in, you certainly can this afternoon, or this morning, coming up at the Shack. And the winner to get Central Cass. That game, of course, is Friday as well. But that's not because of the weather. That's because of the Bison basketball team that is slated to play tomorrow night at the Shack. As of that, we can show you more of our graphic here. On the Bison side of things, they are still on and are going to be played. Yesterday, the Bison women left around lunchtime for St. Paul to make sure they would get there. As everyone knows who watches our show or heck has seen anything going on in the weather maps, that the Twin Cities is about to get rocked with potentially historic snowfall. So the Summit League sent statements out to the teams in the bullseye, so to speak, to do whatever you can to be safe, but we want to make sure these games happen. And so that means going an extra couple days early. So the Bison women are in the Twin Cities, and that game will happen tomorrow night. And it is a large game, and we'll tell you why coming up later on in the show. As for the Bison men, that game will still happen. The St. Thomas men left yesterday and arrived in town last night. So that game, which is a monstrous game in the Summit League standings, those two teams are tied for third as we begin play today. That will happen. So everything was made to do that, and those games will still happen. Lastly, as we talked about, the Minnesota State girls hockey tournament is set to begin this morning. The State High School League set out a statement. We read this on Monday, and again, I'll read it here. The Minnesota State High School girls hockey and gymnastics state tournaments for this week are expected to take place as scheduled. Teams are being encouraged to watch the weather and make travel plans accordingly. We look forward to hosting two great tournaments. So I know Warroad and Fergus Falls left on Monday. We did a story on our newscast last night that the Spud girls hockey team left yesterday. They were supposed to leave today. They left yesterday to make sure they got down there. Remember, the Spuds play tomorrow night, probably around 8:30, in their game against Gentry Academy. So everybody, from what I've told, has gotten where they needed to be. Only thing that the state hockey tournament in Grand Forks was waiting on was a set of officials, and they're coming in for the late game. From what I'm told, everybody is leaving today for Grand Forks, including our television crew, to make sure they're in place for tomorrow, knowing full well what's going to happen. Those wondering if those games aren't going on, I can tell you, folks, as I said it yesterday, if there's anything I learned during 2020 into 21 is that North Dakota was going to make sure that all of its state tournaments happen. So come hell or high water, they're playing the hockey tournament. And if it's in front of family and friends or less than that, which may be the case, at least tomorrow, that's going to happen up at the Ralph. So that's your weather sports update. Thought I got out of those when I stopped doing the nightly sports, but I'm glad to pass along any information there. And if anything breaks or changes during our time on the air, I will pass it along over the next couple of hours. So there's where we stand on the weather side. Now let's get to the games. Last night, Minnesota Wild wrapping up their 7-game homestand. They got to get out of Dodge because the state hockey tournament begins today as they welcome in the Los Angeles Kings last night. Kings are playing really well in the contention for the Pacific Division Championship. Minnesota started well in this game. Ryan Hartman, who scored the game winner against Nashville on Sunday, off the nifty feed there from Kirill Kaprizov, wrists home the shot. His 8th goal of the season. Gets the Wild off to a strong start in this one. That was a heck of a shot from Hartman. You'll remember the goal he scored on Sunday was off his body and in. This one, as it was tweeted out, he used his stick to score this one, and a nifty feed from Kaprizov. That's a heck of a goal to give the Wild a 1-0 lead. Stayed that way into the third period. Wild had a chance here. Matt Boldy with a backhanded shot. I'm not sure how in the world that one did not go in. Phoenix Copley made the save. And then Hartman does it again. Under 5 to go in the third period. A little wrist shot that he scores on. That made it a 2-0 Minnesota lead. They would give up a late goal to Andrei Kopitar. But the story of the day, once again, beyond Hartman, was Freddie Gustafson, who was making his 3rd straight start. The Wild are officially, I think, on the Gus bus because he was really good again last night for Minnesota. As you see the replay of the second goal from Hartman, that was another tremendous shot. His 9th goal of the season. Anytime you get the defender to go down and wire one home, that's what you try to do. Gustafson making his third straight start, had 33 saves last night. This is one of them there. And the Wild get a much-needed win. 2-1 is the final over Los Angeles. They finished their homestand a mark of 4-2-1. It got off to a bad start, but it ends the right way as they get the much-needed 2 points. So here are the up-to-date standings as we start this morning in the Central Division. Dallas by a point over Winnipeg. The Wild have tied Colorado in the Central standings. The Avalanche currently have the tiebreaker on the Wild. But that's how they stand in the Central Division. Overall, in the Western Conference, the Wild now have opened up a bit of a gap over Calgary, have a 4-point advantage over the Flames for the final wild card spot. The Wild have that at 67 points. Calgary sits at 63. We talked about them needing as many points as they could get. They get it last night, and now they head on the road for the next couple. They play Columbus coming up. The Blue Jackets are the worst team in the Eastern Conference, and then they play the Islanders, who are in the playoffs right now. So, again, they're playing teams outside the conference, so you have a little wiggle room, but you want to win the games. So that's your Wild update from last night. Last piece of video before we wrap up our first segment. And this made national headlines last night because we're nearing March, and when we get into tournament play, which officially the Northern Sun Conference tournament tipped off last night, now we're getting some crazy stuff. In Marshall last night, Minot State facing Southwest Minnesota State. Opening round of the Northern Sun Conference tournament. The winner to get a spot in Sioux Falls at the Pentagon. Let's pick it up here. 9 seconds to go in the game. We're in triple overtime. Minot State with the ball. Cameron Duffy with it, trying to find some angle, just heaves it up at the horn and wins it at the buzzer for Minot State. Again, another look at this. They looked it over just to make sure he got it off, which he did in plenty of time. They reviewed it to make sure if it was either a 2 or a 3. It ends up going in as a 2. And Minot State beats Southwest Minnesota State 86-85 in triple overtime last night. That sends the Beavers on to Sioux Falls. They did a little taunting of the crowd at Southwest State. But they will get a chance to take on Saul Phillips' Northern State team, who's been dominant all season. They were the top overall seed in the Northern Sun. But congratulations to Matt Murken. He will join us coming up later on in our show. That was all over SportsCenter last night, if you saw it. But the Beavers are playing on after a triple overtime thriller. And it's one thing to get a bye to get to Sioux Falls, but for teams like Minot to earn a trip, that's a big deal. And we'll visit with Matt about that coming up later on in our show, which is a perfect segue to set up what we've got coming up here on a busy Wednesday. We are packed to the gills. Our colleague and friend Drew Trafton will come on here at 9:20. We'll chat. Apparently, he's taking umbrage with my Marvel poll that I did, grades, I should say, after I saw Ant-Man the other day. So we'll have fun with that coming up in a few minutes. At 9:35, Mallory Bernhard will join us, UND women's basketball head coach. Also, the Fighting Hawks trying to get out before the weather. They left yesterday to fly to Chicago. This morning, they're busing from Chicago to Macomb. Lovely trip. She'll join us. The Fighting Hawks have won 5 in a row. They're tied with the Bison for second place in the Summit League. They have to win out and hope the Bison lose to get the second seed in the Summit League. We'll discuss that coming up at 9:35. At 10 o'clock, David Richman will join us, head coach of the Bison men. We talked about, obviously, what NDSU has at stake this weekend. Pretty neat deal this morning in The Athletic, written by College Hoops writer and national CBS broadcaster Seth Davis on one Grant Nelson about the year of the unicorn. So Grant Nelson has gone national, folks. We'll visit about that with Dave at 10 o'clock. And as I mentioned, Matt Murken will join us. Minot State's men's basketball coach after the buzzer beater last night, coming up at 10:35. Really quick back to Grant here before we wrap our segment. You can read it. I tweeted it out at my Twitter account on the story on, you got to be a subscriber to read it, on Grant Nelson. But it brings up a question that now is going to be asked between, I'd say, now and May, because that's when the deadline is. Either you're going to keep your name in the draft or return to school is, where is Grant Nelson going to play college basketball next season? You can vote on this on our Twitter poll at Hot Mike WDAY. We've got 3 options. We've got NDSU, a Power 5 school, or the NBA. For those that don't know the rules on this, it's different than football. You can enter your name, you can hire an agent and get feedback, but still return to school. It's not a foregone conclusion, folks, that he would return to Fargo if he does not decide to enter the NBA draft now, or stay in the NBA draft. He's already made it plain that he's going to go into the NBA draft and hire an agent. But it's the feedback that he's going to get between March and May that will determine what happens. And it's not out of the realm of possibility, like you saw what happened with Baylor Shireman last year, the player of the year in the Summit League, who left South Dakota State, entered the draft, decided he was going to come back to school, but didn't go back to South Dakota State. He went to Creighton and is starting there for the Blue Jays. He had a big game last night despite Creighton losing to Marquette. So this is a thing, folks. As much as we talk about the NFL stuff, and we are super excited about the potential with Cody Mauch, a Hankinson kid, to maybe be a first-round NFL draft pick, now we've got a Devils Lake kid that potentially could be going into the NBA draft. High times for sports in North Dakota. It really is, folks. It's pretty cool stuff. We'll take a break. We're off and rolling here on this Wednesday morning. Hot Mike returns after this on WDAY Extra and InForum.com.
The biggest Seahawks, Sounders, and Mariners fan in the FM area. It's time for Views with Drew.
I got something here right off the hop. I missed this yesterday.
What are we talking about?
You'll get in a second. The New York Jets are really interested in Derek Carr.
Yeah.
Nothing but positive reviews, according to Diana Rossini from ESPN. Now they wait for Aaron Rodgers to emerge from the darkness and inform the Packers of his plans. The Jets will be speaking to Green Bay about a trade if the Packers are willing. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't want either one of those guys.
Yeah?
I don't want either one.
Well, what's your ideal?
I want Jimmy G.
Okay.
I want Jimmy G.
Yeah.
I'd be A-okay with that.
Well, I mean, the dominoes are going to fall pretty fast, you would think, right? I mean, because there are some decisions that have to be made from a franchise tag perspective. I don't know, though, if you want to make a move before Lamar Jackson's fate is sealed in Baltimore, right?
I'd take him.
There's nothing to
is
say
he available?
Yeah, but there's nothing to say that Baltimore's not going to slap the tag on him and then move him. You know, because you can do that once that tag's applied. So it's
man,
it's a but you don't want to be the team left without having
you got to have
that
something.
Quarterback, right? Especially if you're the Jets and your roster looks like load to bear. You're ready to compete. You just need that final piece.
Am I missing something on Derek Carr? Like, he seems like he's a very average quarterback, maybe slightly above average quarterback.
Yeah, and you're introducing him to a new system, and so it's like, well, how, and it takes time to gel,
right?
Yeah,
in bad weather, I don't know how I feel about that one.
Yeah, I mean, I would be, if I was in your seat, I think I would be more interested in Aaron Rodgers.
And Rodgers is only for what, 1 or 2 years max?
Yeah, and you'd have to redo that contract.
And I'm not giving up 2 first-round picks. I don't want to do that.
No, and I don't know what Green Bay can realistically get for him at this point, just because of the contract situation. Great player, no doubt about it. Questionable teammate, I think.
We've been down this road before. We had the Packer cast. Brett Favre was great for 11 games in 2008. Then he got hurt, and then everything went sideways after that, and he went on to Minnesota from there.
Derek Carr seems like an incredible human being, though. I mean, and a good teammate.
Yeah.
I mean, all reviews seem to point that way. But
is Lamar Jackson available? Because I'd take him.
I think he could be. I mean, you keep hearing this smoke fire situation, and I'm sure it's a lot of leveraging going back and forth.
I'm totally biased with my FCS experience with Jimmy Garoppolo, but Saleh knows him. They coached and worked together in San Francisco. There's got to be something there.
Yeah.
You don't need Josh Allen on the Jets.
No.
You know what I mean? You need a guy that can complete the ball on 3rd and 7, something that Zach Wilson could not do. Hand the ball to Breece Hall, play great defense. You can win 10 games and make the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's all you need to do.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I hear you. You know, my big concern with Jimmy G always is just injuries.
His
you know?
health.
I mean, and that's, you know,
And you got Mike White as a backup, then you're all good.
Yeah. If you have Trey Lance and Brock Purdy sitting on the bench,
Well, there's
you're
still
fine.
something there. You see the Purdy news yesterday that the inflammation has not gone down yet, so they can't have the surgery. It was supposed to
until
be
June.
It was
right,
supposed
or
to be
May?
today. I don't know when now.
I think they pushed it.
Is that
at
right?
least that's what I saw last night. I don't know how accurate that is. They're going to have to make another evaluation.
The hope was for him to be ready to go by
training camp,
late in training camp, but they can't have the surgery yet, so that's still up in the air on what's going on with Purdy and the Niners. Okay, so we tend to veer off sports when you're on, which is A-okay by me. For you nerds out there, the new Marvel movie is out, came out Friday, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumanium. It's the third Ant-Man movie, the third Paul Rudd
That's so
led,
absurd.
which is
that
crazy to think
we
of.
live in that world.
In
That
2015,
there can be three Ant-Man
of them.
movies.
And it's done amazingly well at the box office. It is not as well reviewed as some other Marvel movies, which actually continues a trend over the last, I'd say, year and a half of the ones that have come out in the theater. I'm not talking the TV shows that have not earned, I believe, an A from CinemaScore, which tracks this stuff. I mean, for a while, Marvel was doing something that nobody has done, hitting home run after home run after home run. They were just all of them. And I'm not talking by people that, like us, that they're catering to, actual reviewers of movies saying the movies are quite good.
Critically acclaimed.
So I tweeted out on Monday after I went and saw the movie of the grades I have for the content that Marvel has put out since Endgame, which was April of 2019, so nearly 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Now, remember, 2020, they had nothing because of the pandemic. They shelved everything. And it was about this time 2 years ago that WandaVision got rolling.
Yeah, the start of MCU television.
Which was first on TV.
Well, outside of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but this is a new thing.
There was a story. I read the story in Variety that they put out 18 different projects between 2021 and 2022. That is a ton.
Yeah.
I mean, it's enough for even me to say, I need a break, or just, give us, and Kevin Feige's actually said that they're going to space out some things. They moved the new Miss Marvel's movie to, November. It was supposed to come out this summer. They moved that out. Anyway, you can read my list. It's on Twitter now. I believe you tweeted back at me, though.
Oh, I saw it.
That I have some issues that we need to discuss on Wednesday about this.
Notes.
Yeah,
I have some
so
notes.
what do you have for me here?
Let's see here. Let me open up my book.
Let me list off the projects here. So you have Spider-Man: Far From Home. That's the one with Jake Gyllenhaal. WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Black Widow, which was the Scarlett Johansson movie, Loki, the TV series, Hawkeye, TV series, the Eternals movie, Shang-Chi, The Last Spider-Man, No Way Home, which had, I'm going to spoil it for everybody, the other Spider-Man in it.
Yeah.
Moon
Sony
Knight,
projects.
the second Doctor Strange, the fourth Thor movie, which came out this summer, and then the She-Hulk TV series.
Should we just take a commercial break right now in between this list because it's 18?
So, which ones did you have the biggest gripes, I guess?
Yeah, well, I just don't think anything Marvel does is a D-. Even though I agree that's my lowest
the Eternals,
rated.
I gave a D to. I did not enjoy that.
A D. I did
not enjoy
like
that.
There's like it's like pizza, right? I mean, like it can be bad, but it's still pizza,
It's still pizza?
you know?
Okay.
Even though, like, I'll totally go with you there. Like, I remember watching that movie and being like, I get it at the time, but now looking back, I could not tell you what that movie is about.
Me either.
And that cast,
it was too long.
Yeah. And I've always wondered, would that have been a better Marvel TV show?
Probably.
You know, but you couldn't have cast it the way you cast it. You couldn't have gotten those stars in there. Loki, like, you know, I get the plus
I thought it was the best thing they've done. I really enjoyed it.
Really good. I agree.
And I love Tom Hiddleston, so I'm biased there. I gave that an A+.
I would just, I don't think you can give anything an A+. You know, like, I think A is good because it's set up, like, I mean, from a stakes standpoint and where we're heading, seemingly.
I'll just say it helps with
that carries.
You need to see that before you see Ant-Man. I'll just say that.
That carries the lion's share of the load that they're trying to accomplish post-blip, I think. I thought Spider-Man Far From Home is actually a better movie than Spider-Man No Way Home.
Okay, so
I would actually tier those differently.
Okay.
Because Spider-Man Far From Home, I think, is super underrated. I think that's almost like Civil War, or not, Winter Soldier territory.
Okay.
Because that came out after Endgame.
Did. Yep.
And it was kind of our first glimpse into what's Marvel going to do.
Yeah.
And it was like, does this carry? Do people care about this? And it set up the idea. I mean, without Far From Home, you can't do No Way Home.
Nope, correct.
Because, Peter Parker has to live with all of the sins of Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man. Like, all of his villains really are setups of things that Iron Man mistakes of Iron Man.
I agree.
And there was so much spectacle in No Way Home that I think bumps that movie up. But, like, outside of the spectacle, I don't know if it's, like, super special. So I would tier those differently. Shang-Chi, I give that an A. That's been my favorite Marvel movie in post Endgame. Just everything. The stakes felt right. The comedic balance with the action.
I'm going to see it again. It's been a while since I saw it because that came out last fall of 21. That's been a while.
That one felt most to me like a ride. It was just like it took you somewhere, and I loved the post credits. Everything just worked for me on that one. I like She-Hulk, and I know that I'm like more than most people.
Yeah, I
give
do
that
too.
That's an A- for me. And I know you didn't review. I think in your continuing tweet there, Miss Marvel.
I have not seen Miss Marvel yet. Yep, that's the other one.
To me, that's a solid B because that one felt very much like the Spider-Man Homecoming. Like it had that like teenager vibe to it that it just really worked for me. It was funny. It was down to earth. You really cared about the characters more so than I think any other Marvel TV show. Like, Loki brought that. Like, Loki's mix of the old and the new worked really well. But Miss Marvel, like, that had a lot to accomplish in a TV series, and I thought that did really well. Right. So I'd give that a B.
Okay, so those are the ones the last Thor movie disappointed me.
Yeah, which is too bad.
It had all the elements it could have been really good. It just didn't.
Like that is a victim, I think, of the stakes not really mattering all that much. It just didn't feel consequential. Christian Bale's performance,
it's really good,
incredible.
Yeah, really
I would have
good.
loved to have seen more with him. And so that's
So before we go, because we got to roll, because I got UND's women's coach coming on. So we've got Guardians of the Galaxy is next in May. Which that's the last run for them.
Yeah, it has to be, right? That's Gunn's like going
because he's moving on to the DC universe. I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
Then there's 2 more TV shows, and likely the new season of Loki's sometime coming in 2023 as well.
Yeah.
But I'm with Marvel. Pump the brakes. It's okay. Make us
let it breathe a bit.
Yeah, make us want it a little bit more before just the fire hose of stuff that's come out over the last year and a half. That's a lot, man. I had to go back and wait a minute, I forgot this. And I forgot this one.
Like, I know Doctor Strange's title was Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah.
That could have been the whole phase's title. Like, you could have named that movie something else, and this phase could be Multiverse of Madness.
Great to see you, man. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me.
The Movie Reviews with Drew Trafton joins us each and every Wednesday. We're due for a break. We'll come back. UND women's basketball coach Mallory Bernhard joins us from Chicago. Fighting Hawks on their way to lovely Macomb, Illinois for 2 huge games to wrap up the regular season. We'll do that when Hot Mike returns after this. Welcome back, everybody, on this busy Wednesday. You saw a shot there from Grand Forks, which people are moving around now. Hopefully it's not going to get too bad up there. The state hockey tournament set to start tomorrow. I know our crew is leaving later today to get ready to broadcast a long day of hockey tomorrow. The UND women's basketball team got out of Dodge yesterday because they're playing in Western Illinois, Macomb tomorrow, and then in St. Paul on Saturday. So it's planes, trains, and automobiles for our next guest. It's great to see Mallory Bernhard back with us somewhere in the outskirts of Chicago on this Wednesday morning. I'm obligated to ask, as a dad, how is your little guy doing?
Doing great.
Yeah?
Doing great.
Are you sleeping at all?
I get tons of sleep. The problem is I got this cough and this whatever's going on here, and that I blame the toddler for.
It's funny you say that. I remember I got sick way more often than I ever did. I'm like, yeah, that's the little guy that's bringing that home.
It 100% is.
Well, congrats. You guys have won 5 in a row. It seems like a dumb question to ask, but you feel like you are trending in the right direction, that you saved your best basketball for right now?
Well, I certainly hope so. I mean, we've had some good games. We've had some tough moments though too, and so you kind of look and it's like, all right, I don't think we're done growing yet. And I don't know, maybe I linger on memories of the past a little bit too much, but we ended last year about as poorly as you could end on a 5-game losing streak. We lost the last 4 of regular season, and then that one down in Sioux Falls. And so I think that's kind of the message, that like, let's not get too happy about patting ourselves on the back with what we've done or whatever. Like, we've worked all year to get to where we're at right now, but the job's not done. We still have no idea what seed we're going to be in Sioux Falls. And so, yeah, we're making progress, and that's fantastic. But yeah, I'm not going to ride the roller coaster of the ups and downs right now. Let's just keep steady.
Mal, how big was just mentally to beat South Dakota? I know for the Bison that was a big hurdle. How big was it for your team to get that win a couple weeks ago at home?
It was nice. I mean, it had been almost a decade. It was 9+ years since we had beaten them, and that's even hard to like say and fathom, in all honesty. That's a rivalry to us too. I mean, North Dakota State's definitely, the one, but I mean, we put those Dakota schools there too. So to get that one was good. It was big. It's good for the program to be making some progress, and it's not lost on us that they're dealing with about as much adversity as you could possibly deal with. But there's still something to be said about the confidence of beating that team and saying, okay, because we've been right there a couple different times when they had their stacked lineups, and so to just get it is nice for sure.
But then you go out on the road and win, and that's been something for outside of South Dakota State. It has been really hard for anybody to win on the road. I got to imagine confidence-wise, you were zooming after that to win both games in Denver and Omaha.
Yeah, that was really big. Honestly, that was probably a bigger feeling moment at the time. We feel so confident when we're in the Petty. We had an awesome year there, but we'd struggled on the road, and I think we know Denver is a dangerous team. They can beat some teams that, maybe standings wise you look at and say it's not going to happen, but it does. And then Omaha put a little bit of fear in South Dakota State a little bit. So they're a team that can compete at an incredibly high level as well. But yeah, for us to just go on the road and get wins was big, because it was just something we hadn't done this year.
Can you describe the difference of last weekend, where you have a game where you score 108 and then it's hard to get 60 points? Like, I know that's the teams you were playing, but as a basketball coach, is that drive you nuts?
I don't know if it drives you nuts. It's funny though, because yeah, we shot really well on Thursday. I mean, we shot 50% from 3, and for us, that's a mark that I'm going to highlight and be happy about. But we knew we were going to play an incredibly fast-paced game Thursday. We kind of told our team going into the entire week, we said, we wanted to throttle it down when we went to Tulsa, and we felt like that hurt us. And so let's just go, let's play. And so when you play that way, you got to make shots to keep pace. And thankfully we did. And then on Saturday, we couldn't buy a bucket. It felt like, you find yourself with some looks at the rim and they just aren't dropping. And you think, oh my goodness, how did this happen in 2-day span? But thankfully the defense picked up for it majorly to only hold them to 39. It helped our weekend defensive average. That's for sure.
You have a special group of seniors. Describe, you've been through that moment where you walk off and get the hug from the coach. Now on the opposite end of you doing it, how emotional is that?
It's really emotional, and I try not to let it be too emotional in that moment, because, you want to keep your focus on what's ahead, but at the same time, you don't want to devalue the moment either, just because it's huge for those players. It's big for their families, their fans. I mean, there's a lot that is invested into, playing college athletics and what they've done for the program. And there's just so much more that I'm proud of them than just the basketball side of things. I mean, the community service piece, I can't tell you how many times I get people saying how great of representatives they are. Even yesterday, we're in the airport getting Subway and someone says, gosh, you guys have just the most polite team I've ever met. We just love having, and just like those are kind of things that you think that's fantastic. And that's because our seniors are saying, hey, we're going to not only be good basketball players, but we're going to make sure we're good people too. And they're just awesome.
Sorry, Mal. How personally gratifying is this for you? A couple years ago, you win 2 games. You've won 17 here. You're in a battle for the 2 seed. I think you knew what kind of team you had, but it's another thing to go and do it. How personally satisfying has this been this year for you?
I mean, it's what you want to happen. You want to be able to be a team that can reach what you believe to be your potential. And I think we're climbing towards that. And so, yeah. And again, go back to those seniors. They played through a 2-19 team for a 2-19 coach. I had, players commit to a coach at that level in Jolie Daninger. And you just think, wow, that takes a lot of courage, honestly, a lot of courage. And they didn't waver. They just worked. And so, yeah, it's gratifying because trust me, there were a lot of hard moments that year, a lot of them. And so sometimes you got to sit back and, there's a tough day at practice and you get frustrated and you think, but you know what, I'm still sitting here. I still got this opportunity every day. And so for that, I'm definitely thankful.
Now, the elephant is in the room is obviously about this weekend. Do you even need to tell the team of what's at stake, or are they fully aware of, all right, we sweep, we got a heck of a chance to be the 2 seed in Sioux Falls?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about all of it. It's not worth hiding because if you don't talk about it, they're talking about it anyway. So we might as well put ourselves in the conversation and just be honest about it. And we said that last week when we faced Oral Roberts. We said, let's not deny this. This is a big game. We're both tied for second. And that's no different this week. I mean, the reality is we have to take care of our own business for other games outcomes to even matter. So, yeah, we're not firmly sitting in a position where we can guarantee ourselves that 2 spot. But we can guarantee ourselves no opportunity for it if we don't care of our own business. So that's kind of where we're at.
I don't know if
let's just put our heads down.
I don't want to get you in trouble on this, but have you talked yet about a potential if you don't make the NCAA tournament of continuing your season? If the NIT was a possibility, is that something you guys have you and Bill talked about yet?
Yeah, we'd love to. I mean, the reality is it's been a team goal all year long to play postseason. So, we put goals together at the beginning of the season, and we remind our team and talk about our team and visually look at those goals every single week. Because it doesn't do any good to set goals at the beginning of the season, look at them once and forget about them. So we talk about them consistently. And playing postseason, whatever that looks like, is something that this team wants to do. So we hope we get that opportunity.
I don't want the bus to leave without you, so you better go here. I don't want an almost famous moment here. Thanks so much for the time. Safe travels to Macomb, and good luck this weekend, all right?
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Good to see you. Mallory Bernhard, UND women's basketball head coach, joining us from the outskirts of Chicago. Her team on the way to Macomb for a big one tomorrow night. UND in Western Illinois. Of course, the Bison will take on St. Thomas tomorrow, and then they flip-flop on Saturday. And the scenario here is as plain as day, as we could show you the updated standings in the Summit League. Obviously, we already know South Dakota State has won the conference championship. UND and NDSU sit tied in second place right now in the league standings. Now, if the Bison are sweep this weekend, NDSU would get the 2 seed by virtue of them sweeping South Dakota. USD is the real interesting note here because the Bison swept South Dakota. UND split with them. That's how you go head-to-head here. So down the list. Again, Oral Roberts, that's a tie there for NDSU and UND because they both split with Oral Roberts. You get to Denver, that's where it would split because UND swept the Pioneers, the Bison split. Same thing with Omaha. So that's why USD is so critical here in the league standings and why that Bison overtime win over the Coyotes may end up securing them the 2. But it doesn't matter if NDSU doesn't win its games this weekend. And again, winning on the road has been an issue for nearly everybody. Outside of the Jackrabbits, they've been immune to this because of how good they are. That's where things have really broken down. Now, the league wraps up this weekend, as we mentioned, with those games. South Dakota and South Dakota State get Oral Roberts in Kansas City. So potential there for each of those teams to likely win, which would help the Bison if they end up being tied with UND. And again, the reminder on this, if you are the number 2 seed and your conference champion makes the NCAA tournament, then the 2 seed gets an automatic invite to the WNIT. That's a big deal for both North Dakota State and UND. UND's played postseason basketball in the Division I era. The Bison have not. Not one. Not even sniffed it. That's why, arguably, and we'll talk with Jory Collins about this tomorrow, could be the biggest weekend they've had in Division I basketball. In the 20 years they've been a Division I team, it doesn't get much bigger than what they have at stake coming up this weekend. Thanks to Mal for giving us a few minutes there. We'll take a break. We'll wrap up hour 1, get caught up on a couple other things, including our buddy Nash Jensen getting selected in the USFL draft yesterday. We'll wrap up hour 1 of Hot Mike here on the Calm Before the Storm right after this. Wrapping up our first hour. Our thanks to Mallory Bernhard for joining us. There is one other event besides the WNIT. The Women's Basketball Invitational is another postseason event. There's a few out there. I know everyone knows about the NIT. There's a couple else out there as well. Those are also for some of those events. You have to pay to get into them. And then it's about offsetting your costs at certain points. How much are you willing to spend to continue to play? Now, I would say for both of the North Dakota Division I teams, I think they're going to be playing postseason basketball one way or the other. I don't know if they're hosting any games. I've had people ask me about that. Is there a possibility if the Bison get the 2 seed and don't make the NCAA tournament, could they play at home? I don't know. It's I think a $6,500 freight to host a game in the WNIT, and that's a good chunk of change. I don't know if they would do that or not, but it's a question I know I've asked. I haven't got a definitive answer on it yet, but I know it's one that are under consideration. Again, we'll have more knowledge on this come Saturday night. We'll finally know what the field is for the 10-team tournament down in Sioux Falls, and then can start figuring out stuff from there. And heck, you want to actually let the tournament play out to see how things go on that angle. Because I think we can already rubber stamp South Dakota State into Tuesday afternoon. That's probably a safe bet, right? We can do that in 2 weeks' time. I don't know who they're going to play. That's the intriguing part. And if it ends up being either a North Dakota or a North Dakota State, it'll be super exciting for a couple of reasons. It's somebody different because it's been SDSU and USD for so long, but the gap is still there. Now, does that mean the gap closes after this year? No, but it certainly means that those teams, the Bison and UND, which had down years last year, the Bison were 6th, UND was 5th, that you can get to the top 2 or 3. That should be attainable. It should not be out of the realm of possibility to get to that line and be consistent to stay there. It's one thing to get there. It's another thing to stay there. That's what makes what SDSU has done so unbelievable over the last 15-plus years of dominance in the Summit League. It's another thing for these teams to now build quality rosters, keep the players, and be good every year. I tweeted this out. The 2 teams, UND and NDSU, lost a combined 2 games at home this year on the women's side. That's really good. Now, on the flip, it makes it awfully hard for teams to come up here that want to play games, but you want to be really good at home. If there's anything you can say about both USD and SDSU is they are dynamite in their own buildings. Remember that it was a 43-game conference home win streak South Dakota had before the Bison beat them in January. SDSU is virtually unbeatable at Frost Arena, especially in conference play. They haven't lost a home conference game in probably a couple of years at least. Building that up is a huge deal, and they have done that this year. It's another thing now to sustain it. That'll be intriguing to see going forward. But that, to me, is a big step forward for women's basketball in the Summit League. Now, we'll see if they can sustain it into next year. Both teams are highly touted recruiting classes on their way. I know she can't speak of it. Last night, Red River's Jossie Schiller became the all-time scoring leader at Red River High School. She, of course, is just a junior, still has another year of basketball, so she won't even get to UND until 24, 25. But that's the kind of player. We've talked about the dynamic players that are in the state. Those are ones that can, if UND or NDSU can get them to stay home, that is a massive coup. Going to be fun to watch when the State A comes up here in a couple weeks. We're due for a break. We'll make sure we're on time for our next guest. Dave Richman coming up. Talk about his superstar, now gone national. Grant Nelson on the cover of the Athletic website on this Wednesday morning. We'll do that and a heck of a lot more when Hot Mike returns on WDAY Extra right after this.
This is Hot Mike. Hot Mike. On the networks of WDAY. WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
But some of the angles, like that your camera is like I'm seeing a lot of receding stuff here, Dom. You know, so what do they say? The sun shines on a dog's behind once in a while.
Exactly. Boom.
Well, let's just maybe continue the train here. Like, I need to know, are we doing this, Dom, like at 9 or 10:06 or 10 o'clock? Because my Zoom that I get, the link says
here
10
we
o'clock,
go. Yes.
and at 10:02, I still am waiting for the host. And I want you to know, Dom, you're the host. Come on, Dom, you can do this. We're here with you. I mean, just exactly like that.
We played defense in that first half like Dom transitions to you after the game. It's way too long, way too lazy. I think just like Dom's outfit, they're not always pretty. Sometimes they're really ugly.
Funny story about this is Dave Richman joins us. One of my wife's coworkers saw your interview with Logan. Says, "What did Dom do to Dave? Why was Dave being so mean to Dom?" And Courtney had said, "Well, wait a minute. They've got a running bit going. So here we might be able to take this on the road. In the off season, if you want to do so, I'm all for it if you're up for that."
Well, here's a couple things. Is like I can't hear what I never hear the montage beforehand, but I just watch your reaction, and then it just gets me going. Like, gosh, what did I say? I hope I didn't.
Oh, it's pretty good, man. I'll say that.
Yep.
Well,
second of all, is I have all this tension in my neck and back and shoulder areas, and it's not from the season. It's now like, how do I get these Dom jokes to keep coming? I mean, the pressure is just mounting and building. But here's the real thing. When we're done, I think here's what we're going to do. I'm going to send you a Zoom link, okay? And I'm going to start to put all of the questions onto you.
Let's do it.
Dom, like, how come your show isn't top 3 in America, right? Like, Dom, how come you said this instead of did that, right? I mean, it's all those things, right? I want to put the shoe in the other foot a little bit.
Tell you what, man. I'm all for that. Let's do it. I'm all for it. I don't know if anybody would like to hear the answers, but I'm all set. I'm all for it. If you want a guest host when I take some time off, go for
it.
I'm in. You want to do that?
So at some point, maybe you can help me with this because I am an idiot when it comes to technology. I want to start a podcast.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
And trademark this thing so nobody can steal it. And it's going to be called Hotel Eggs and Bus Drivers, the life of mid-major basketball.
I like that.
I'm telling you, when you spend as much time as we do in hotels, and it's really sketchy what those eggs are going to be like. If they're going to be watered down or whatever. Like Wes and I have the great debate: do we eat them? Do we not eat them? Right? And then bus drivers are like the best, right? I mean, there's all kinds of great stories that come from conversations and road trips, and it's all good.
All right, we got to make sure that nobody takes that name. That's really good. I enjoy that. I'm surprised, by the way, you actually answered my calls after Seth Davis called. I don't know if you were going to big time me. Say, well, wait a minute, CBS is calling you. So I appreciate that you actually, picked up the phone to talk to us today.
Well, my daughters just have my phone. They just clicked it, and I'm like, oh gosh, it's Dom. Now I feel bad if I don't take it. It's one of those. So. Yeah, I got to tell you, my head's really big right now. I'm high and mighty. You should be fortunate that I'm on the Zoom with you guys. You know how it is. It's it's really cool. I'm happy for Grant. It's great exposure. Like you and I were talking about before we hopped in the Zoom. I'm glad for our program, and I still go back to it, and I hope I don't feel like I'm just banging this against the wall too much, but these are all the things. When I started here at North Dakota State in a Division II program, and I would get on the phone recruiting and, be talking to kids in the Twin Cities area or in, around here. And, they were certainly listening, but they would end up at some random obscure Division I school out east, some random obscure Division I school out west. And I didn't get it at the time. And, but now when you're playing at the pinnacle of our profession, that's the NCAA Division I basketball. And you see the national exposure, you see the brand identity that North Dakota State has created across the landscape of not just the Midwest, but the entire country, and to be doing things successfully like our football program is, like we've been able to do in, six out of the last 8 years, and now some individual recognition based on, what I want to talk about is the development that happens in our program. If we do have the right young men and characters and family that want to buy in, it's pretty cool. Appreciate Seth for doing that. But also, Dom, listen, and I mean this in 100% all seriousness, we're always about our roots. And Dom Izzo, Mike McFeely, and the list goes on of guys that have been with us through thick and thin. And, it's always been 100% positive from you guys. Yeah, always. No, we're appreciative of everything.
I'm interested, though, and I just seen him yesterday, and I've known him since his junior year of high school. He's been the same Grant Nelson. Has it changed just even conversations with the two of you? Like this is going to get different, probably even more so, I would imagine, when the season gets done.
That's the best, Dom. I can honestly sit here and tell you it hasn't. Grant's not a guy that just wears his emotions on his sleeve. And so the night after it went viral and we talked, I could feel the smile through the phone. We've had great conversations, ever since. I'd be lying. You don't know if you truly know somebody until you're really put in a foxhole with somebody, right? And so I'd be lying if I, when all that video went viral and the scouts and agents and everybody started calling, my antennas went up, not based on anything other than how's Grant going to handle this? Is it going to overwhelm him? Is he going to think he needs to do things differently? Literally, the kid hasn't changed, and I don't want to go all, Bible and all those things, but, Grant is a big man, just like I am, in his faith, and in a lot of ways, shapes and forms, I've talked to his father quite a bit lately. Grant's handling these things better than anybody. And that's what's really cool to see. And he's got a great perspective of handling things one day at a time. And when the next thing comes, he'll rely on, more professional guidance to take that. But I think again, I'm not a big social media guy, but I just saw some of the numbers that, what he's putting up, what he's averaging and all those things. Like, what more can I really, and I'm still the Jack, yelling at him for playing better defense or not turning it over. And he just, keeps looking at me like, okay.
I know you have a vote, so this is probably a biased question here. Or you can't vote for your own guy, but because McFeely and I were talking about this yesterday, Mike says it's a slam dunk for Max Abmas to be Player of the Year. And I get it if Oral Roberts doesn't lose a game, but Grant's got to get some serious consideration in my mind. I would think to win the Player of the Year, even if they just numbers wise alone.
Well, yeah, I mean, those are media, conversations and things like that. Like Max has done what I think of Max Abmas and his longevity and durability and where his team is at. Like, I would assume that's probably where it's going to end. When you talk about value to a team, when you talk about sheer numbers, Grant's done a whole bunch of amazing things.
I got to ask, because when you were on last week, so you're like, okay, we want to take care of business. Let's get that one in Kansas City and then take our chances with the game in Tulsa. You got the game in KC. I know you're not into moral victories whatsoever. So what was the mood coming out of the game Saturday night in Tulsa?
First and foremost, it's disappointment. You're in this thing because you love to win, you hate to lose. That being said, I think what you're getting at is the same thing that I saw and hit with the players. Hey, there are some things that we have got to fix, gentlemen. Our numbers off. We've been shooting good field goal percentage numbers. We're second in the league, I believe. But when it comes to an efficiency things, we had too many careless turnovers, not just in the ORU game, but in the Kansas City game. Clearly in the Oral Roberts game, we didn't shoot the ball well. Those are the things that we're going to focus on and learn from. That being said, did you see some things that are very encouraging, that you can see some growth from the first time we played them, especially at their place in an environment on senior night? Yeah. And I thought we got caught up in the emotion to start the game and started to be hugged up and didn't help our spacing defensively and got them going. But when you're down 19 early, you got a lot of ways to go. And our guys didn't rattle. We're right back into the thing a couple times. It's just basketball, as you know, is a game of momentum and runs. And our runs were to get back into the game. Their runs were to gap it. And those are some learning experiences. We had an unbelievable spirited practice yesterday. I'm hoping to see those things carry over. It's a fun, exciting time of year. And I think a big part of our successes this time of year has been, having clear minds and fresh legs. And our guys are starting to feel some things and starting to trend that way. We'll see how that translates when the lights come on tomorrow night.
Two biggies here, obviously, to end the season tomorrow night. The St. Thomas game will be statewide on WDAY. Excited about that. And they're right with you, tied at third place. And I know if you could go back and do both the St. Thomas and the Western Illinois game over, you certainly would do that in a heartbeat. But is it night and day from that team that took the floor in St. Paul to the one you're going to see for your own team tomorrow night at the Shack?
Yeah, I'm listening. John would probably tell you, his team looks different too.
Yeah.
And the roadie kid didn't play against us the last time. But, we get done watching. We show some clips before practice. We watch some personnel clips after practice. And it's funny as we're, huddling up to break for the evening, Bowden just kind of laughs. He goes, "Oh boy, we weren't very good at that point." And I said, "Yeah, thanks, Bowden. Yeah, you're exactly right." But again, like I've said this, off the record to you, and just some things like I could be in a lot of places. One of them being a mental asylum right now, based on our overall record and some of the challenges that we've gone through this year. But I saw all along talent. I knew all along the locker room and the character that was there. We lacked experience, and fortunately, we've gained plenty of experiences. A lot of times the hard way. We've matured through those experiences. The guys, to their credit, have continued to buy in and understand what we want to be about. And this time of year, for great teams, just everything else just hops out. And we've aired everything. This is who we are. This is how we're gonna play. We have a better understanding. Like, this is what we've done in wins. This is what's happened in losses. And everybody in that locker room tells me they want to win. Yeah. Whether that's Grant Nelson, who's getting NBA attention, whether that's Bowden Scumberg, who, at times, certainly I get it. He wants to score a couple more points and all those things. But it's about settling into roles that are going to help us excel down the stretch. And, we've talked about it. Some students are planning for spring break and doing those things this time of year. There's no better spring break than being a part of the NCAA tournament. And so hopefully we can go all in and play our best basketball as we go down the stretch starting this weekend. I know, like you talked about some standing stuff, something that, are these games big? They are. But to me, the biggest thing is building that momentum going into next weekend.
Well, that's a hallmark of your team. I would say, since you took over as coach, you have your team always playing at its best in late February and March. You believe you're trending in that direction, or is that something you want to see tomorrow night?
I do. I firmly believe that. And it's something that you can feel a vibe. You could feel that energy the way the guys came out yesterday in practice. Is it going to need to continue to be validated at practice today and tomorrow night? To your point, yes, absolutely. I need you. We can talk about it, we can feel it, but at the end of the day, it's a behavior that you need to be able to see it. But yeah, I do. I think at times, especially for the young group, this is a lot. This is a lot for 4 freshmen that are playing for a junior college. You and Mike and I talked about it yesterday with Andrew Morgan. That last year was not a true normal freshman year. A lot of ways, there's a lot of firsts, happening for that young man. And it can be a grind. It can be a grind from lifting and traveling and coach getting on you and doing all these things. At this point, you can finally see a big bright light at the end of the tunnel, and it like, oh, okay, now it starts to make sense a little bit to these guys.
In this era, though, you don't need to address anything that's at stake, right? I mean, the guys can see it, right? Is that something you don't even need to reinforce? That, okay, if we take care of business, we've got a chance to be a I know you got to beat everybody anyway, but you can take care of having a high seed for when you get to Sioux Falls.
Absolutely. Again, I think the other way you say it is as great of a year as South Dakota State had last year, as great as a year as Oral Roberts is having this year. They're not on any first four out lists or anything like that. It's all in, right? Yep. And it's all in for that same thing. And hopefully we're trending in that direction to put ourselves in that equation where literally in 3 or 4 days anything can happen.
I know Mike wrote the story. You can read it at InForum.com about Bowden Skunberg and his transition from the high school game. And I remember visiting with you about him in high school, watching him at the state tournament. You and I were there at the Shack when Jamestown was there, especially that 2019 team that ended up winning the state championship. That his game was certainly catered to one. But what really, I guess, when you saw him, what really grabbed your eye and say, you know what, he'd be a good fit for us?
Well, I think it's the obvious, and I'll state it. He's from an hour and a half away, right? And you want those guys that bleed it, that have a little extra passion for it.
Yep.
What stood out to me was, I think, at the time, Jaden and I went to go see him play, and it was even before his senior year in a workout or whatever, and he's just pounding 2 balls into the ground, and he's talking to kids, and he's staying after, and like his competitive fire and spirit, the emotion that he plays the game with, and Mike did a great job in the article touching about it. Sometimes he crosses that line, but it's a line that I'm willing to live with, because a very, very misunderstood young man, because people only get to see him for 40 minutes, every so often. And he's the ultimate competitor. Sometimes, again, I'll be honest with you, I've been transparent with him. Sometimes that takes him to a place where it's not helping us be successful. But who am I to, you don't want to take you can't take the fight out of the dog. And are there some learning lessons along the way? There are, but I'm glad that young man is on my team, on our team.
To have yourself be a North Dakotan, Grant having this kind of notoriety, Bowden's right. I mean, I know this is an old narrative about the North Dakotans weren't going to have any kind of impact at Division I, but to have this kind of impact, I think, is even beyond some of the most optimistic viewpoints. You agree with that?
Let's not do the North Dakota thing and downgrade ourselves all the time.
Right. I'm with you.
It might be an old narrative, Don, but I appreciate you continuing to bring it up. Like, I want it to be a fresh narrative, right? Like, why? I mean, we all, you included, being here now, and everybody that's been raised here. I have 2 arms, 2 legs. I put my pants on the same way as somebody does in Miami, right? Why do we have different?
Yeah.
Let's have big goals and aspirations. And I'm damn proud of the things that my family's been able to do at North Dakota State. I'm damn proud of AJ Jacobson and Dexter Warner and Carson Wentz, and the list goes on, Cody Mauk, and I mean, it's transcending across sports. And I do think what you see at any level of high level professionalism, there's talent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a big part of what separates that is your work ethic, your investment in where you're at, are your boots really on the ground where you're at? And you're starting to see some of those things. Like, can't wait to get Derek to set.
Yeah.
Here this summer and work with him. There's somebody that's his family has gone to North Dakota State. Those things. We're always going to comb the desert right in front of us first and foremost. And I know sometimes certain guys want to give me crap about how we recruit. At the end of the day, like that's just how it's going to be. And why is it going to be? Because I'm defensive too of the narrative, and I know where you're talking about. Our teams are playing the best, but we've had pretty damn good records throughout the course of seasons too, not just towards the end. We're on besides the COVID year, we're on the verge of averaging 20 wins, over 8-9 years, and then there's great things happening. There's great things happening with people from North Dakota and the Red River Valley.
All right, before I let you go, tomorrow it's a whiteout. Do you have? Am I supposed
to call you Seth or Dom? I'm confused right now.
Gosh, you're a big deal. I know. It's a whiteout tomorrow night. Do you own a white suit? Could you get a white suit? I can't wait
to see your white suit that you're going to wear tomorrow.
Do you have a white suit? Come on now.
No, but sash was on point. Our quarter zips are going to be white tomorrow.
Okay, all right.
Going to drop my. I try to stay a little bit fresh and hip with the guys. The Jordan 1s that are all white are going to be on.
All right.
But just remember, Dom, like I always say, it's the man that makes the suit, not the suit that makes the man.
No doubt about that. How many pairs of sneakers do you own, honestly?
they're climbing. I'm almost, I need to be careful because I'm always on my wife about all the damn shoes that she's got. Now my side of the closet's starting to fill up.
Oh, man. It's great to see it. I'm super excited these two games. Really excited tomorrow night. Going to be on WDAY. It's the statewide audience to get to see which should be a heck of a basketball game. Thanks as always for the time, man. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Appreciate you, sir.
Good to see you, bud. There he goes, David Richman, North Dakota State men's basketball coach. The Bison and St. Thomas. You'll see it coming up tomorrow night, statewide on ABC, on WDAY, wherever you get your ABC stations, WDAZ, KBMY, KCMY, wherever you are in the state, you'll be able to watch the Tommies and the Bison. They start the night in a tie for third place, and it's between these two teams for third. St. Thomas has had a heck of a year, folks. They've got one of the top recruiting classes in Minnesota that play for the Tommies, and led by Johnny Tower. This is a team that scared the heck out of Oral Roberts, has beaten South Dakota State. They have got some guys that are going to be a handful tomorrow. Should be a heck of a game, and weather I know is going to be an issue. Hopefully there's a good crowd, but if you can't make it, flip on Channel 6 tomorrow because it should be a heck of a basketball game coming up. You see Western Illinois there in the 5 spot. The Leathernecks will play tomorrow morning against UND. Why they're playing at 11 a.m. is because the Region 2 championship game is slated for tomorrow night in Grand Forks. And again, this is all weather pending on the high school stuff, but I can tell you the college games are going to happen. So there you have the 1 seed locked up, the 2 seed locked up on the men's side. Oral Roberts and SDSU, if they win, they will get the extra days off. They will not play on Sunday. So the Bison know, regardless, they're going to have to win 3 games in 3 days to make the NCAA basketball tournament. And that can begin here with a weekend sweep. Would go a long way. Remember, the Bison lost to St. Thomas, and they lost to Western Illinois right before Christmas to start off the Summit League season. We're due for a break. We'll take one now, get caught up in a couple things here as we roll on a Wednesday morning. Hot Mike returns after this on WDAY Extra and InForum.com. Welcome back, everybody. Update to our poll question. Where will Grant Nelson be playing next year? You can vote at Hot Mike WDAY right now. A Power 5 school leads the way at 56%, NDSU at 29%, and the NBA about 16%. I'd hate to say that doesn't reflect probably more of an accurate thought that I had in my mind, but you're not going to get a heck of a lot of disagreement out of me, I would say. It would be a coup if he were to come back here. It's not unheard of, and knowing him like I do, I think there's a lot of pull for that. But I don't know the list of schools. They would probably be long. They would want a 6'11" guy who can play like he does and shoot the ball like he does. I think there would be a long list of suitors if he so chose to go down that road. That's the dilemma, if you want to call it that will face him once this process begins in late March and April. And, we've had draft conversations in the past. Normally, it's centered all on football, obviously, with Bison players. This one is going to be such an anomaly that we have not gone through before, and I really hope people appreciate it. I think it's going to be fascinating to see what's on tap here over the next little stretch. Let's get you updated, of course. The state hockey tournament beginning tomorrow. Of course, you can watch coverage right here on WDAY Extra. It begins at noon with the first of 4 quarterfinals. Second game coming up at 2:30. First game features Grand Forks Red River taking on Jamestown. That second game is Minot and Cheyenne. And then our evening coverage begins at 5:30 and then at 8 o'clock with the final of 4 quarterfinals. Then Friday, if you want to watch the consolation games, they'll stream them at InForum.com. The semifinals begin 5:30. Note the early start time, 5:30 on WDAY. We're statewide on semifinal Friday. And then the championship is at 6:30 on Saturday night. If you're looking for the NBA game that night, it'll be on Extra. It'll be right here for those wondering, and I'm sure I'll get a phone call on that. Here are the matchups tomorrow. Red River and Jamestown begin things at noon. Minot at Cheyenne at about 2:30. Legacy and Davies will be the first game of the evening session at 5:30 as the Sabres make their debut at the state tournament. And then South Shanley and Century is the final game of the day. That should be a dynamite game. They have played in the first round numerous times. South Shanley had a big win over them. Gosh, I want to say, was it 2019? 2020, they had a big win over the Patriots to get into the semifinal round. So, as we mentioned yesterday, the stigma has been the East has dominated here the last 3 years. Can the West win an opening round game? We'll have a live preview from the Ralph Engelstad Arena tomorrow morning. Sam Getzinger, who's doing the play-by-play this year, will join us tomorrow from the Ralph to get us ready for the opening day of the state hockey tournament. We're due for a break. We'll take one now. We come back. The shot of the night happened in Marshall, Minnesota from Minot State. A triple overtime buzzer beater. We'll visit with head coach Matt Murken when Hot Mike returns right after this. Welcome back, everybody, on a Wednesday morning. We mentioned off the top of the show, shot of the night happened in Marshall, Minnesota last night. Made its way around social media, crept on ESPN as well. The Minot State men's basketball team went triple overtime to beat Southwest Minnesota State in the opening round of the NSIC men's basketball tournament. Cameron Dunphy hit the game-winning shot, as you see it right there, to send the Beavers on to Sioux Falls and the Pentagon for the quarterfinals and a date with Northern State coming up on Saturday afternoon. It's our pleasure to welcome back to the show men's basketball head coach Matt Murken is good enough to join us. I was joking with you off air. Your reaction was about as calm as I can imagine. It was like one fist pump. What's that about, man?
You know, I had been asking our guys. We've had so many close losses. I think we had 10 games that we lost by a possession or two, and I kept asking them all week for 40 minutes of basketball. And you know, afterwards they're saying, "Coach, we gave you 55." So I think I was tired out after that. All I could muster was the quick calm fist pump and walk down and shake hands.
So did you know, I know they reviewed it afterwards. What were they reviewing? Was it a 2 or a 3? What were they reviewing after the shot went in?
Yeah, they kind of said they have to do a standard review. Make sure you got it off. Make sure it's a 2 or 3, and then also see if there's any time left.
Okay.
Afterwards, but it was, I mean, I was about as right on of a buzzer beater as you can get, man. It just through the net, pure net, right as the horn sounds, and game over. So we needed that one. Like I said, we've had a lot of close ones, and that was a good one to get. Our guys really deserved that one.
Have described that game to get. It's one thing to go to overtime, but to go to triple overtime. What do you even say to the guys after the first overtime and the second overtime?
You know, almost every time we came to the bench to sit down there, I look at them. The guys are, you know, we didn't sub much in overtime. They're tired. You know, we had one guy had already fouled out, and every time we just kept saying, "Man, how much fun is this? How much fun is this? Playoff basketball, you know, season's on the line, and we get to play 5 more minutes." It's just, and it was fun. It was exhausting. I mean, I got on the bus and drank 3 bottles of water back to back to back. I can't imagine what those guys did.
I was gonna say, how much I don't know if you counted your steps last night of how much you had pacing the sidelines, man.
I know my Apple Watch was dead when I got on the bus. That's a true story. So I wore that thing out.
You tell me off air, you got to share this story. Just the trip of you getting there, just getting to Marshall was an exercise. Just tell us about that, of how to get from Minot to Marshall.
Yeah, you know, we played at Northern State on Saturday. So we left on Friday, went down to Aberdeen, played there, hopped on the bus, got back about 2 in the morning. We stayed, traveled with our women, so got back. By the time we're on the bus, we had an email from the Northern Sun saying, "Hey, we might get 2 feet of snow." So we might move the game up. So we're trying to move the game up to Tuesday from Wednesday night. And we take off, you know, we let the snow pass here on, you know, let it clear off a little bit on Monday morning. We take off. We realized 29's closed from Grand Forks down to Buxton. So we jog south, and next thing we know, we're sitting in a co-op on the east side of Mayville on Highway 200. The bus, it doesn't have any heat, and we're sitting there trying to fit. My assistant coaches, I kid you not, are out trying to help the bus driver fix the bus. And
oh wow,
Here's where the coaching community comes in. Our old assistant at Minot State is now the assistant at Waldorf on the women's side. They're up to play Mayville State. Their charter bus comes and picks us up. They had dropped the girls off at the hotel. They pick us up. We're starting to freeze on the bus. They take us over, and the coaches over at Mayville State, man, I got to give a shout out to the Comets because Coach Magruder and Coach Hutter got us in the gym and let us hang out at their place. We were there for 6 hours. Got to Fargo Monday night, and then we had to get up at we got up at 6:30 and left and drove down to Marshall. Got to the gym 2 hours before and played 55 minutes of basketball. So, man, what a bunch of resiliency from our guys. I've been telling our guys they're a bunch of tough guys and some tough nuts all the whole year, and keep at it and things will pay off. So happy to see it come to fruition last night.
That's amazing, man. That's crazy to get there that close and then play that kind of game. You've done the travel. You've been all over the place. Is that about as wild a story as you've had in all your exploits on the road?
Yeah, that one probably is. That's close. You know, we thought about it. We got back at 2 last night and beat the weather out of Minnesota. If by the time we get to our game on Saturday, it's either 9 or 10 straight days that we've been on a bus from. Shout out to Harlow's in Bismarck getting us around, and Tom and the general, our other driver, the general, man, they had to relay drive us back last night, but those guys are good guys and they got us around safely. So, but that's the stories our guys will tell, 10 years from now. And I've got guys texting me. That's my favorite part of coaching. I guys texted me that coached years ago about last night's game and how fun it was. So
that's awesome.
That's the fun part of it. The community in sports, you can't beat it, really.
What was that bus ride back like last night?
Oh man, there was music playing. There was guys shouting. There was, there was a lot of excitement going on. They were telling stories from the game. Their student section was riding our bench pretty hard. So our guys were kind of laughing about some of the things that were said to them. But again, those bus rides, that's the best part of the game, man. I tell you what, that's the thing that guys will miss. And there was a lot of that going on. And man, we probably made it 6 hours in before it quieted down on that bus, which is always a fun time.
Describe the play. I mean, with Cameron has the ball, is that a design play, or is this, we got to make something happen?
Yeah, the crazy thing is we had a better chance to win it at the end. We should have won at the end of regulation. We should have run in the first overtime. We had a good shot the second overtime. And quite frankly, they had us beat there at the third overtime, and we kind of ran an action to get Kahari Broadway coming off, and 2 defenders went with him, and Cam followed him up, and you can see him. It started off the way we thought it would with him on the run, and they did a good job slowing him down and kind of got him stopped at the point of attack. And I couldn't feel better for a kid. He's a senior. He's our one senior that plays this year. We have a ton of new guys. We've been through some close losses. Cam had a wide open 3 at the top of the key to beat them in January. Wide open. We're down 2 and he missed it. And then he had a layup to beat Moorhead, Minnesota State Moorhead, or to tie him, it Thursday night. And it went around and came out. So he had 2 really good shots that he missed. And sometimes it pays off. And that was the worst of the 3 shots, but he stayed calm and he knocked it down. And, he could have made a free throw at the end of regulation too, but I don't know if making a 1-and-1 would have made Sports Center. So good for that kid. It paid off in the long run, I guess.
And now you got to practice today. I mean, that's the best part, right? I mean, you're not collecting jerseys and all that. You got more practice. Describe that. Or getting right back in the gym then later today.
Yeah, we're just gonna meet with the guys today, man. We gave them the day off. I think it's good. I don't have a voice. I've got a cough drop in right now, but we're gonna take today off. They're gonna stop up and meet, and then we'll get. But man, is it fun that as soon as we get off this, I'll be watching film and trying to game plan and win one more game on Saturday and go from there.
Well, you're playing Northern State. You beat them earlier this season. You scared the heck out of them the last time you played. Yeah. Everybody knows about how good Saul Phillips' team is. What is it about this matchup that you like that you've already got them once this season?
Yeah, I think sometimes it's as simple as making shots. We made a lot of shots when we played them here. I think we've been really good defensively. I think we've had a sound game plan against them to beat them here and then go down to the last possession at their place on Saturday. But, man, they're good. You don't get to be ranked 18 in the country and win the NSIC without being a good – they've got shot makers on that team, man. They've got balance, and they've got, they'll probably have the player of the year when it comes out today in the NSIC. And then they have some other guys that are really good too, man. They've got a good group. They play hard. And And the last time we didn't make it to the Pentagon last year. Last time we were down there, they were ranked like top 5 in the country, and we had a great game with them.
That's right.
Down there too. So hopefully our little revenge tour can continue and we can get a little payback on them too for them knocking us off a couple years ago.
Well, I remember visiting with you when we were in Minot about making it to Sioux Falls, how big a deal that was for the program. Now to do it 2 out of 3 years, what can this do for you going forward?
Yeah, I think it's big for our program. Every win's big. And 2 years ago when we were talking, last year we graduated 4 seniors that had scored over 1,000 points. And nice to hear from those guys today. 3 of them are playing professionally. Max Cody actually joined up with Tyler Rudolph, a Century product that had taken a few years off his pro career.
Nice.
And they're on the same team in Australia now.
Wow.
Melvin Newburn is playing. He was in Malta on the island over there, and now he's over in Georgia, I believe. And then and Eli Caves in Portugal. So 3 of those guys are playing, but we lose all those guys. We have all these new guys, 7 new guys, and a few more guys coming off redshirt years. So it can be. The best thing they've done is keep going. Like I said, we lost, I think, 10 games by like 4 points or less, and they kept at it. And hopefully a little momentum, not just for this year, but moving forward for all those young guys coming back in our program. And great for Cam. Like I said, he's our 1 senior. I'm glad he hit that big shot, and hopefully we can win a few more for him this year.
So, okay, you're going to watch film. Are you going to at least sleep? You going to take a nap later today? I mean, you got to relax a little, right?
I've got a 2.5-year-old and a 1-year-old, man. I am full on dad power right now. When they woke me up at 6 a.m.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm telling you, my wife headed over to school. She teaches at Our Redeemer's Christian School. I laid down for 2 minutes. I thought I was going to go back to sleep at 7:15. That didn't happen. I was back in the office. So I'm on dad power right now. You know how that goes with the little ones. They keep you going, man. They keep you going.
No doubt about it. I got to ask a question because I was visiting with Mason Walters last week, obviously the stud at Jamestown. I know you offered him. He only had 3 offers out of high school, which is still mind-bending to me. But when you see him, though, I mean, what stood out at the high school level, and has he even exceeded what you thought he could do collegiately?
Yeah, one of my guys when I was at Jamestown, coaching at UJ, started a little basketball clinic for the youth. Byron Jones, and he has an academy now out in Baltimore area, and Mason was at that all the time, and he's a little scrawny kid that just loved to hoop, man. And he's not a scrawny kid, but he still loves to hoop. He's so good. And what comes to mind for me is I should have offered him more money. Man, is he good. I'm super excited to see what Jamestown can do here in the playoffs. Danny's done a great job down there. And Mason's a great player, and they've got big things going. What a special place that place is to me, too, for giving me my first head coaching job, and just a great athletic department. So I'm excited to see what he does moving forward, where he can go and how successful he can be, because he's got a great basketball future, whatever he chooses to do. And you couldn't ask for a better kid. What kind of caught our eye was just how successful, and they had Scunberg too, but how they had turned around Jamestown High School from a team that hadn't had a lot of winners win, man. Winners win, and those two are going to continue to win a lot of games.
You think he can fit in Division I? He could play somewhere next year?
Oh, yeah. It's all about finding the fit for him. I mean, he can play where he chooses to play. Just so he'll fill a role. He wants to win. Skilled, plays hard, all that stuff. So anybody to be lucky to have him.
We're talking, Matt, this morning. There's a whole feature on The Athletic about Grant Nelson now, about how this is taken off to be a thing. I know how hard you recruit the state of North Dakota. Where you and I talked about this a couple of years ago. Now here we are. You got a guy who's getting an NBA look out of Devils Lake, North Dakota. We're talking about Mason. Why has it gotten this good this quickly in North Dakota in your mind?
That's a great point. Man, I love the state basketball. We had a home visit with Grant, and we were hoping to, and he blew up, man. We were hoping to get in early on him. But another great kid, plays hard. I think the biggest thing that I've seen I've been up in North Dakota for 13 years now as a college coach, the opportunity for kids to play more. I think there's a lot of really good high school coaches. I think people care a lot about the sport, but I think there's more opportunity to play, and there's good and bad about club basketball. I think, people could argue that stuff too, but there's more opportunities now than there was a decade ago to be on teams and to travel around and see other good competition and get beat a little bit and realize you have to get better. And that's been really good for our state, I think. And I'm just about opportunity. There's some pros and cons of the 3-class system too, I think, but I'm all for opportunity and people having success. And the young kids seeing their high school team make it to the state tournament and they're fired up and they want to get in the gym and they want to play because, man, is it cool that Carrington or Cavalier, whoever, or Minot High or Minot North now made it to state, or whoever made it, and they want to be the next great player on their high school team. I think that's awesome. And I think that's helped grow the game in our state.
Cardinals going to be any good this year in the National League Central? What's the deal?
I'm fired up about spring training, man. I don't know about your Mets. I was going to give you some grief about that, but I got big hopes for the Cards this year, man.
What grief can you give me? They won 101 games and didn't even make it out of the first round. Come on.
We can commiserate about that because we had the Phillies beat and then lost that one. So
it's great.
But it's basketball season now. We can worry about that later.
Absolutely right. Congratulations, man. It's great to see you. That was so much fun to watch. I hope you have an uneventful trip to Sioux Falls this weekend, and we'll be watching. Thanks again, man. It was great to see you.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom.
Matt Murken, head coach of the Minot State men's basketball team, a thrilling triple overtime win last night over Southwest Minnesota State. They'll get Saul Phillips and Northern State in the opening game of the quarterfinals beginning Saturday at the Pentagon in Sioux Falls. That was good stuff. We'll take our final break. We'll come back. We'll put a bow on things, get you ready for a busy Sports Wednesday, which starts in about 10 minutes' time on the sporting side of things. We'll do that when Hot Mike Wraps after this on WDAY Extra and InForum.com. Trying to put the finishing touches here on a Wednesday spectacular. Good stuff from Matt Murken. If you missed that, we'll podcast that later. Good dude. Despite the fact he's on like 3 hours of sleep, he was ready to bring it for us today. I expected nothing less than that, and he delivered there. Couple notes here before we go. The USFL draft was held yesterday, collegiate draft, first one they've had. Took a number of Missouri Valley guys, including North Dakota State's Nash Jensen was selected by the Pittsburgh Maulers in the 6th round. That does not mean he doesn't have an NFL chance, but there is certainly now, I don't know if it's a backup way to describe it or some insurance for him in the professional ranks, but because Nash is going to go through NDSU Pro Day, as he told us earlier this month when he joined us on the show. Which will come up in about a month from now. I think it's March 29th, I want to say, is NDSU's Pro Day. So a month and a week from now, he'll be back here to do that from his rough training in Florida. But he was selected in the USFL draft, which is one of the rare spring leagues to get a second season. Heck, some of them hadn't made it out of their first season. You remember, the Alliance of American Football only made it halfway through the season. The XFL only made it 3 weeks, obviously, before COVID hit and shut everything down. The USFL gets a second season, which begins in April, and Nash Jensen, they're drafted by the Pittsburgh Maulers in the 6th round. We'll update our poll question before we say so long here. Again, off the article from Seth Davis from CBS Sports and The Athletic, where will Grant Nelson play next season? It's a runaway right now for a Power 5 school. Nearly 55% believe he will not be back in Fargo. 30% say with the Bison. 15% say in the NBA. And it will be a major storyline that we follow here in the coming weeks and months on what the Devils Lake standout can do. You could hear already what Matt Murken was talking about Grant Nelson and the unicorn that he has become, which is going to be fascinating to watch. And you've got at least 2 more times to see him this weekend. Tomorrow night on WDAY, Saturday on the Extra. And then we'll see after that. I don't know. I'm not saying it's his last home game, but it could be his last home game on Saturday. And that's reason enough to come to watch the game or to watch it on television, what's going to hang out on Saturday. Let's get you ready for what to watch before we get out of here on this Wednesday. The Minnesota Gophers stuck in the bottom of the Big Ten tonight at Maryland, 6 o'clock on the Big Ten Network to check out the Gophers. The She Believes Cup continues. The United States women's national team in action tonight against Brazil, one of the best teams in the world, all leading up, of course, to the Women's World Cup, which is this summer in Australia and New Zealand, 6 o'clock on TNT. Remember, they're the home of U.S. Soccer now. It's TNT and TBS, that match tonight. And the Class A Girls State Hockey Tournament begins in about 5 minutes. Top seed Warroad will face off against Albert Lee. That's tonight, 6 o'clock on Prep Spotlight TV. Fergus Falls follows that at 8 o'clock. We got to roll. Thanks to our guests today, to Drew Trafton, Mallory Bernhard, Dave Richman, and Matt Murken. If you missed any of our show, you can podcast it later today at InForum.com. Everybody stay safe. Keep your Storm Tracker app handy. We'll see you back here tomorrow on Hot Mike on WDAY Extra, InForum.com.